I'm going to tell you how to survive and thrive at a music festival. I was beginning to put the title together, but you can see how late in the day I realised I had to give this talk. So it was all going to be nicely centred and slightly bigger, but how to survive and thrive at a music festival. That's the title of this particular talk. Are you okay with the door open and the music downstairs? You can still... Yeah. That's okay. Yeah, I think so.
Music festival, yes.
There we are. It's perfect. Right. Did anybody recognise that? It's not that sharp, is it? But do you recognise...
Glastonbury.
Yes. Do you know... Who's been to Glastonbury? Oh, there's a couple. There's a couple. Who, actually, just a quick show of hands, who has been to a music festival of any kind? I think it's quite a lot. And who had a fantastic experience? Whoa, good. Okay, there we go. Well, we'll go on this journey together. That particular viewpoint is Pennard Hill at Glastonbury, so if you probably recognise it, do you, in terms of, I think it was, yeah. The view from Pennard Hill, you get a great view over the whole of, pretty much the whole of Glastonbury. And that was a few years ago, I can't remember when. But it's a magical place, and wonderful, like all festivals really. They are great if you embrace them. Which I tend to do. That picture I put up because one of the things about festival going is, and as lots of you have been, you'll probably know this, but quite often where you park your car is an awfully long way away from where you're going to pitch your tent. So you then have the challenge of getting your kit from your vehicle to your tent, or you carry your tent to that spot. And people try all sorts of things to do that. They use wheelbarrows, but you can see they really don't work as a means of transport. It's not great. So people use all sorts. They use kind of trolleys and backpacks, and you see kind of the wheelie long trolleys, the ones used at airports. And they all sorts of bother with those. But I came up with this system a few years ago, wheelie bins. And they really do work. And I kind of got the idea because they work for bin men and they get thrown around and they're so tough. And essentially, you get all your stuff in them, and it's wonderful. They just the wheels are robust. They go anywhere, and it's not a problem. You see people look at you with massive envy as they've got stuff, and you go strolling past. If you can't get all your stuff into a wheelie bin when you're going to a music festival, and to be honest, you're not going to a music festival, you're probably moving house, so you need something else. But you can get everything in them. They are fantastic bits of kit. And they work very well for getting your stuff to a festival. Now you'll probably be sort of familiar with that, those of you that have been to festivals. Key tip really is if you're going to go to a music festival, get there bloody early, because if you don't, you're kind of having to find a tent or a place to pitch your tent in amongst a throng of hundreds or if not thousands of other tents. And literally people are banging guy ropes into people's porches and you can sort of set your tent up with your mates and have a little sort of area in the middle, go to sleep and wake up and there's a couple of tents in that gap. That's how tight it can be. Or if you get there too late, you can't get anywhere like that. So you end up having to pitch next to the toilets or in the toilets, which is highly unpleasant, and you really don't want to do that. And talking of which, I suppose, in a way, that's the kind of festival goer's fear, isn't it? The toilets at a festival. They are pretty hideous. I have no tips. I can offer you no advice apart from take lots of toilet roll and embrace the whole experience, really. It's unpleasant, but you just have to do it. And I think I'll leave it there in terms of the toileting. It's not. No, that's supported. Yeah, there's all sorts of different types. I didn't want to show a whole range of the different delightful toilets that you get at a festival. You get all sorts, but they're just unpleasant, and you just have to do it. So there you go. I suppose if not really in terms of tips for something to do if you're sort of trying to face the fear of the toilets, but one thing not to do is to do what this chap over here is doing and wear a onesie, because you see a lot of that going on at festivals. but then you have to go into one of those toilets, and it's it's not going to work. But you see lots of fancy dress these days, get-ups and stuff like that, and they're not so practical when it comes to the toilet going stuff. But that's enough about toilets. We'll move on. Do you remember that image? I think was used some years ago to promote Glastonbury. It was the sort of classic Wellingtons in a muddy field, and really, I suppose all I wanted to say about that was that in terms of going to festivals in the UK, it's going to be wet, it's going to be muddy, it may well be cold, so you just have to go with it and embrace it. You might be lucky, and it might be dry. If you really want hot weather, then go to one of the European Spanish festivals, are wonderful, and go abroad and experience a foreign festival. But if you want to have the UK experience, which I think is rich and fulsome, then accept that it may also be wet and muddy and slightly cold and damp. But you're only there for a few days, so get stuck in and enjoy it would be my kind of tip on the weather front. Showers. I think, someone will probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that showers are a reasonably recent invention, sort of the 1800s, something like that. We've only been showering for maybe 150 years. So my advice, therefore, is when you go to a festival, don't shower. It's only 4 or 5 days. Don't wash. You can take baby wipes. You can do all that if you need to. Frankly, I wouldn't bother. If you go to Glastonbury, I think I'm right in saying, you might correct me, there's only 2 shower blocks at Glastonbury anyway. So frankly, you're going to be queuing a hell of a long time if you want to shower.
Or go very early in the morning.
Or go very early in the morning. Yeah, which you can do. But even then, you might have to queue a bit. But just smell for a few days. It's absolutely, if everyone else does, everyone else stinks. So you'll be absolutely fine. Don't worry about showering. It's 4 or 5 days. You will survive. You will survive. So fashion. As you can see, I have a very huge and significant fashion sense. When I go to festivals, and I've gone to a few, the 2 things really that I do. One is I wear hats. And I do that not just because I have a lack of hair, but because, as I'll come to in a minute, I like to get down to the front. Stuff gets thrown, and so if you just have a small covering on your head, even just a baseball cap or something, it will save you in the event of an accident, a bottle or something landing on your head, or other object that may not be so pleasant. So hats are a sensible addition, and you may benefit. And layers, in terms of sort of jackets and stuff like that, I always wear a number of layers, and I tend to, although I haven't revealed it there, I tend to just wear shorts with lots of pockets, and that's not because I have great legs, it's just because it's easier. When it's muddy, you're getting your jeans wet, then they tend to drag around. So that's my fashion tip, layers and hats. You heard it here first. Won't feature much in Vogue, but doesn't matter. So, another tip.
Is that you?
It's well, possibly a couple of years ago. Where do I go from there? My tip here is that you see a lot of people at festivals with backpacks and stuff like that, which is fine. I'm not saying don't necessarily do it, but they do tend to, you find yourself bumping into stuff, and people take loads of stuff. Just cut down everything that you take with you when you go into the festival arena, because the more stuff you have on you, it's more to worry about, and you sort of always got this bag. So I like to have my hands free, and I sort of put this I've never found one of these, by the way, but I did go into, there was an army surplus shop in Hastings, and I went in there to see if I could get some kind of, one of those webbing sort of thing. Yeah. They looked at me funnily, and I left the shop with nothing. But essentially trying to have your hands free and take as little amount of stuff into the kind of festival bands area as you can, would be my advice there.
So Tim, is that boozility now?
Is that what, sorry?
A boozility now.
A boozility. A boozility. I like the boozility. I'm going to write that down. Boozility. There we are. Excellent. I love it. Boozility belt. That could take off, So Food. People sometimes worry about what they're going to eat and what they're going to drink, not so much maybe, but eat at festivals. Well, as you may well be aware, that the festival offering in terms of food these days is out of this world. So I've stuck this up there, tea and toast and stuff like that. But you can literally get anything from everywhere in the world. So it is quite wonderful. So don't worry about food. The only thing I would say, though, is if you're at a festival for sort of 4 or 5 days, it's sometimes worth taking some breakfast stuff, so you can get up in the morning and stay by your tent and you can enjoy a breakfast together and then go off and have your sort of lunch and stuff and snacks out when you're seeing the bands. But really the food is just amazing, so you will not starve. You will have a wonderful gastronomic experience. Phones, we looked at that earlier. Well, Glyn, you had a similar image. Yeah, I did, yeah. Almost. Yeah, I didn't have much time. But my point about phones and sort of technology is that you see this a lot at gigs and at festivals. People sort of they're watching the band through their phone, and I mean I know sometimes it's nice to have stuff recorded, but I guess I would just say don't worry about it. Just enjoy, be there in the moment, and enjoy the experience. It's and if you catch some of it on film or photo, great, but just be there and watch it.
How the hell do you charge them?
You get all sorts. I mean, you can get these chargers now. I've got one that will last for about 3 days. It will take a couple of different phones, so you charge those up. And there's loads of charging stations at all these festivals. Although frankly, the quality of portable chargers these days is so high that you don't really need them. You just can plug in and off you go. But you're right. I mean, they do detract from being in the moment, I think. Earplugs, not to block out the music, but for when you get back to your tent and the music is still going on, you might want to get some sleep. The alternative, of course, to earplugs is a whole lot of booze. That works. But earplugs can work, although I tend to be too wasted when I get back to remember to put them in. So, but that's a sort of tip for you. So do that. This one here, so this is it's obviously not for me, but it's a stealth flask, I think that's called. And my daughter found this. I think, a year or so ago, she was off to a festival in London called Love Box, I think it was, and she was talking to me about how she could get some booze in. So we had a bit of an internet search, and there's loads of stuff. I mean, literally, there is everything you can imagine to get all sorts of stuff into festivals. And of course I told her not to. No, I didn't. I encouraged her, absolutely. It's one thing. So yeah, stealth flasks and all sorts of things to get booze and other items in. You can, at most festivals, you can take beer and alcohol to a certain extent, but just avoid glass bottles. That would be one thing. So go for cans and stuff like that. But and other items you can use to smuggle. So the other thing, in terms of going to festivals, I think just generally actually in terms of passions, which is really what the Bavard Bar is about as well. But with all things, I sort of would suggest embrace them and fully commit to them. That's kind of the thing about the weather. That's kind of the thing about festivals I love. It's also demonstrated by this, because one of the things about going to festivals that I love is if you get down the front, all sorts of weird shit happens. And this was a few years ago at Glastonbury, and they are the security guards that they're almost sort of dotted along by the barriers at the front. And I think on the stage was Lionel Richie, and these guys suddenly sort of all congregated and started to dance in formation to Dancing on the Ceiling, which, I mean, it's... I was there. I can say I was there. But it was quite an experience, and of course no one else saw it unless you were down at the front. You didn't see these guys dancing, and they did a good little routine, if you like that sort of thing. Okay. So get down the front would be the thing I would say if you go to a festival. It's a different experience. It's slightly risky, because some festivals you'll go to, there could be sort of 50, 100,000 people behind you when you're down there. And to get to the front, you often have to have a fair amount of supplies on you. You need some food snuck in your pockets. You need some some water, some hydration, but the security guards will give you water if you get close enough to the barriers, because otherwise people are collapsing and getting sort of carried out. So there's an element of risk to doing it, but it's worth it. He says, having taken his 12-year-old daughter to, I think that was Isle of Wight, and it's a bad photo, but coming onto the stage, she was 12 then, I think it was the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So that was a very, very proud daddy moment for me. Stuff the GCSEs. That is my most proudest daddy moment. That's front row for the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And she got one of Flea's plectrums, which she then lost, but that doesn't matter. She had it for a few minutes. And that was a few years ago at Isle of Wight. And then this one is probably my completely proudest father moment, because that you recognise him, Damon Albarn, obviously, and we got to the front, and it did kick off quite massively, and there were two faces in the crowd there. One's mine, one's my daughter's. So apart from Damon's, well, I think there's a third person, but I don't know who she is. And that photograph was taken by one of the official Isle of Wight photographers and was put onto their website for a few minutes. And I just saw it when it was there, so I was wonderfully excited by that. There you are. They are my festival survival tips. How to survive, how to thrive at festivals. That's it. Does anybody have any questions? Are you all now so excited that you're going to rush off? There are loads of fantastic festivals coming up this year. In fact, Isle of Wight I would highly recommend. It's their 50th year this year. I think Depeche Mode are. Yeah, I think they are. And Kasabian, I think. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody? Yes.
Yeah. I'm hoping to go to Glastonbury next year.
Yes.
When you watch it on the telly, it sort of starts on Friday.
Yes.
And then Saturday and finishes on Sunday.
Yeah.
Does it
get there on the Wednesday?
Does it start earlier than that?
It opens on Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock. But you want to get there on the Tuesday, and you want to start queuing.
That was my next question. Which is the best day to sort of get there?
Well, if you we've done it a few different ways, but certainly you don't want to be there any later than 5 o'clock on the Wednesday morning, I would say. So you want to be in that queue. They open the gates at 8 o'clock, and you've got to be going through at 8 o'clock.
And you've got to have your finger on the button to order the tickets the minute they go on sale.
Yeah.
And then you've got to be very...
Which, of course, they go on sale this October. So, in fact, a few months' time, we can all be there. No, it should be good next year. Yes, question?
Have you done glamping?
I have done glamping at festivals, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, I've done glamping and I've done sort of normal camping. I would embrace the normal camping. Glamping is fine, and it's great, and I've done it with my daughter, partly for safety, really. But I've also done normal camping with her, and we both prefer the kind of getting in the thick of it with. It's just more fun. You just feel more real. Glamping is fine, but you're a bit sort of, would you like another a canapé? Oh yes. Everyone else is just sort of fighting over bits of old bacon roll, and it's just it's a bit more earthy and real, I think. But yes,
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Have you got any tips on how to remember where your tent is? Because I got lost and I didn't get back to my tent once.
Where was that?
At Glastonbury.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's huge, isn't it? That's the other thing about Glastonbury. You could be walking for days. I've got friends of mine from years ago. They're still there. Well, there are all sorts of apps, aren't there? You can get kind of Find My Tent and stuff like that. And
we've got a very, very long pole.
Oh, yeah.
And then have a kite on or something.
Yeah, all of that.
And in Glastonbury, you can actually take that to the main stage as well, so your friends can find where that is.
Where you are,
and
yeah.
You can battle the other things with it as well.
Yeah, you can. No, yeah. I mean, I'm sort of. I tend to be that person that is wandering around, sort of randomly stumbling into people's tents and waking up a few hours later and sorry, it's not my tent. I'm sorry.
And also camp on high ground.
No. Camp on high ground. Yes. Good. Yes. For when the downpour comes. Absolutely. Yes. And yes, Tessa.
Well, I'm 92. I was in 19 1970.
Did you?
Yes, I did, and it was absolutely marvellous because, except for the toilets, which was a plank over a pit.
Excellent.
So actually what we did was got in the car and drove to the nearest public loos, which they had a tendency to hose down with bleach on a daily basis.
So were you were at the very first Isle of Wight then?
No, 69 was the
16 hours. Sorry, you were at the second. Yeah.
But we did see the last live performance of Jimi Hendrix.
Wow. I feel like.
And I have to confess I fell asleep. I managed to stay awake all along, watch Caroline Cries Mary, and then I crashed.
I think there's a Bavard in there, Tessa.
What's your advice on mixing up? Because when you go to Glastonbury, you've got far more you can ever do in the time allocated. What's your advice about getting a mix of the different kinds of attractions that there are there?
Yeah, it's a very good question. There is so much to do at all these festivals. You've got music, you've got all sorts of events going on. I think travel light when you're in the festival, which is hence my sort of no bags, just have stuff in your pockets and wear shorts and running shoes and run. That's well, it's kind of what I do. But I think it is a case of a certain amount of planning ahead of the things you want to do. And then, although most people tend to go in groups, I think you have to be, to a degree, a little bit selfish about the stuff you want to see, because you're not, you may as well, if there's stuff you want to see, just go and see it. And because everyone's just off their heads anyway, so, it doesn't matter. Your friends won't even know you're not with them. And you won't know you're not with your friends, so it doesn't really matter anyway. Yes, Jim.
You showed a picture of some muddy wellies.
I did, not mine.
My question is about disposing of rubbish after a festival.
Oh, good question.
Having lived in Cumbria near Keswick, every year I think it's called Soulfest or something.
Yeah, well, there's Kendal Calling up there.
Kendal Calling.
Yeah.
So going on the train to and from London and there, you get to the train station in Cumbria, and the platform is just strewn with muddy wellies discarded.
Yeah.
So I don't want to take them home and clean them and look after them. How would you say about disposing of them?
No, well, actually, Jim, that's a very, very good question, and I saw something on Twitter the other day about it with festival season about to come upon us, and of course you see the sites at the end of a festival, and it's utterly appalling. You've got tents and just it's strewn with waste, and there's a serious issue there, because everyone's going off and having loads of fun and forgetting about the consequences, which is just not right. So something does need to be done about it. I'm probably not the best person to talk about that. But yeah, it's a very good point, and definitely something should be done about it. Any last questions? I'm going to take another break before we go into an Uja Kapivi and our final speaker.
Can I just ask you what's
Yes.
the first
Yes.
festival you ever went to?
That is a very good question, and I have no longer got any recollection of it.
Do you remember what sort of
A
century
long time
it
ago?
was?
No.
No, I mean, what sort of decade was
and
it?
I can't. No, nothing. I literally. Literally, but that's unsurprising because I have no recollection of what I did yesterday. But it's a good question. I don't. It was I can't remember.
No.
Sorry.
No,
good
I
question.
just
I wish I
interested.
could. Wish I could. Yeah. Thank you. Right. I'm going to leave it there because I'm conscious of time, and it is 25 to 10. So if I suggest that we come back for about 10 to 10, does that give you enough time for a comfort break? Charge your glasses, get some fresh air, it's still a bit warm. And we will then hear from our final Bavard tonight, Nuala, who's going to tell us about celebrants. So thank you very much.